Okay, that should do it. All right. Checking audio. All right. Cool. Alright, my name is Eve. I'm going to be drawing in Clip Studio live for you tonight, and just gotta set up some little notifications on Twitter and Tumblr and Discord real quick, and then the stream will begin. Thanks for your patience. Okie dokes. Just one left. Alright. So, I just need to grab some reference images real quick, like. Okay, got some reference stacked up in a pure ref board on the side. And about ready to start. This little one I pasted in here is pretty low res, so I'm probably just going to delete that out and copy it in again from my ref board. Just gotta go back. Oh yeah, there we go. Nice high res image. Go here. Shrink it down a bit. I'm realizing I should probably find some kind of image of the back of him so that I can see what's going on with his goofy ass ponytail. There we go. Found a back view. It's got like the world's longest, most mondo rat tail ponytail thing. Hi Tay. Welcome. Glad you're here. And yes, I am drawing what my good friend Nugget calls Geodaddy tonight. I joined the game after his banner, so I've never had the opportunity to... That's right, my friend is definitely not wrong. I have not had the opportunity to pull and try to get him. But the next time the banner comes around, you bet I will. I'm just sitting on a humongous pile of all the Primo gems I've ever earned, waiting for the return of Zhongli, and also, hopefully they will make Barca a playable character and give me a big giant Night Daddy. That would be swell. So, much like a few weeks back when I was drawing Reinhardt from Rune Factory 5, working on translating it to my style. I'm going to be doing that with Zhongli tonight, and I am pretty excited about it. Should be fun. Basically, every time I'm not streaming and drawing, I'm drawing on my iPad and Procreate, so I unfortunately have not made a ton of progress in my software literacy. with Clip Studio, so you guys still get to watch me clunk around in here, for which I apologize. Oh, we're coloring with white. That's probably not smart. There we go. Alright. Let's just kind of get started, and I want a little bit less opacity, I think. We'll do this one. Yes. That's something. Talked a little bit before about it in other videos and streams and stuff, but to me it always bears repeating. I don't like treating the head as a sphere. Basically the only purpose of the sphere is to give the initial orientation of the head, like an indication of that, and then immediately one should establish the large-scale forms of the head and abandon the idea of a sphere as early as possible, because heads are super duper not spheres. Not even the skull, like the top dome of the skull is a sphere. Like, not even close. Like, if you're looking at it from the top down, it's much more of like this rounded oval with a relatively flat front. And that, even that, varies depending on the person, the exact shape. So it's like not a good idea to think of the head as like this ball thing, because you're gonna end up with like a weird bulbous shape, and even if you're just planning on where to put hair, it's not gonna serve you. I mean, this is assuming you want to draw in a naturalistic style, of course. There's some styles where the head is a sphere and that's fine or whatever, but for the way that I like to approach it, the sphere only serves me to the extent that it gives a three-dimensional sort of compass rose about which direction the head should be facing. I thought it would be interesting to draw this character, not only because I like him, and I think his design is pretty neat, but also because, similar to Rune Factory, the playable characters in Genshin Impact have it in common that they all fall within a certain range of like features. They don't vary all that much. Like, the likeness is achieved through costume and hairstyle and basically like color scheme. But as far as the facial features themselves, basically their heads are, you know, like damn near identical. It's just this sort of like proportional relationships that they're kind of counting on, like the distance between the eyes, from the eyes to the mouth, from the mouth to the nose. Those kinds of like measurements are where the likeness comes from. But the nose itself is essentially exactly the same on every character. And the mouth itself is exactly the same on every character. So there is no information for us about a naturalistic likeness. You only have information about the general proportional relationships and placement of those features. And that gives a strong impression. I mean, like, players of this game, you know, have an emotional response to each character that's different. And the information that is there is enough to create that response. But you have to start extrapolating and interpreting if you want to draw a character like this in a naturalistic style or a semi-realistic style. If the style you're trying to draw in incorporates any form of like naturalistic visualization or representation of like the features of the face, then you have to start like thinking about how the impression that's given by this highly stylized design can be translated into a naturalistic image, a naturalistic likeness. And a lot of this comes from like a person's sort of read on facial features, and like their own personal experience can affect it. It's highly subjective. But even though it's highly subjective, there's a lot of people who would also have the same influence as you, so there's likely to be overlap, and sometimes you do it and somebody's like, oh my gosh, I really like the way you visualize this character, like I love this character and this is so satisfying to me. So it's like, you know, when somebody who really appreciates a character appreciates the way I interpret that character into a different style, it's not only really gratifying, but it's also, to me, indicative of the idea and kind of proves the idea that I have successfully interpreted the features within the original style to be able to give a similar impression even in a radically different style. And if you've seen me draw before, you know I tend not to draw the hair right away because I feel like I don't want to lean on the hair as like a big flag that's like, this is this character. I want to interpret the face. So I want it to read as this character with or without hair. And a lot of times it just takes a lot of like experimentation and gradual building, because again, there's not a whole lot of information about the facial features. If you look closely at this reference, like his nose is like I said, it's basically the same as every other nose in the game, on every other character. So, you know, we gotta look at, there's some information like the shape of the eyebrows, the shape of the eyes gives us some information, but other aspects we are definitely gonna have to, you know, do some interpreting. And, you know, There's also room to kind of bend it a little bit. Like there's the interpretation with the goal of representing exactly like a visual parallel, and there's also the goal of like imagining a look for the character that's based on your read of their personality. For me, like, of course, as a visual artist and a visual person, I really appreciate the visual design of a character, but I also tend to gravitate toward characters a lot based on their sort of personality, their dialogue, their interactions with other characters, and sometimes there's elements that I end up wanting to extrapolate visually based on how I feel about their character, their performance, their interactions that might be different from the way it's visualized in the, you know, the original game or character design. So, like, for one thing, if you look at this character compared to a lot of other characters in Genshin Impact, you start to realize that this is Genshin Impact's version of a fairly masculine character. It's relative, you know? I am thinking in terms of, like, when you're looking at Zhongli compared to Tartaglia and Diluc and Venti, you know, like there's several, and Kaya, there's several, you know, kind of male lead type characters, but if you had put them kind of in a lineup, Zhongli is, like, generally speaking, the most, at least to me, to my eye, the most masculine among them, even though the overall character art of Genshin Impact tends to be quite, like, delicate. Like, even their male characters tend to be quite delicate. So, in that context, in that relative context... Oh, hi, Nugget. Welcome. I think it's sort of like, for me, it feels like an invitation to explore a fairly masculine interpretation of his features in my sort of more naturalistic approach to facial features and stuff like that. Likenesses. Like, I want to give his face more structure than is evident in the character art in the game. Keep trying. I feel like every time I do one of these types of pages, I keep trying to do like a top 3/4 view, so it's like 3-point perspective as like the first drawing, and it's pretty challenging. It's like, honestly, it might be smarter to just start with something that's more like 2-point perspective until I have a better sense of like how I want to interpret the character's face. But here we are. And I'm just going to continue with the drawing I've started for now. One of the elements of a likeness that I find really fun to play with is the depth of the brow ridge and the eye sockets. It has a really intense, like, very phenomenal impact on like how you read a character's face. And you can do some really interesting dynamic things if you kind of explore that specific little measurement. And even in the context of this top 3/4 view, I feel like I have not made his face long enough. I mean, it's going to get shortened by the viewpoint, but I still think I want the face to be longer. So I'm going to move it. I think you probably just heard a notification sound that I did not want to be recorded, so I'm going to open my volume mixer real quick and mute Google Chrome so that will not happen again. I do apologize. Alright, no more notification sounds. Okay. I'm pretty like used to using the liquify tool in other software packages, so I do kind of miss it sometimes when I'm working in Clip Studio, but it's also just kind of like good practice and good for skill building to redraw and reconstruct something instead of just squooshing it around with the liquify tool. So if we look at his, he has kind of a narrow-ish mouth. And, his chin comes to a point. But not an exact point. Like, that's the thing, is I keep saying, like, you kind of have to interpret this within the context of the other artwork in the game. And another character might have their chin come to, like, an absolute, like, angle instead of having this rounded off or flattened space at the bottom. So like you kind of just gotta look for that kind of thing and like imagine in your mind what is the Genshin Impact character art filter, right? And then work backward from that and kind of undo what those like kind of filter elements would be to find that face in a different style. And a big part of that process is just noticing what are the features of the style of the source material and recognizing the patterns. To me, this character, I mean, in a lot of the images of him, he seems to be like calm, collected. Oops, that's not what I want to do actually. Let me go like that. There's a sense of like potentially like some degree of stoicism. This kind of feels like what they're visually describing with his design. So I'm kind of trying to like tap into that feel like I'm losing my perspective, so I'm trying to bring it back. Now I gave him like a prominent Cupid's bow here for the sake of placing the features of the mouth, but that doesn't necessarily mean I want him to have a prominent Cupid's bow by the end of this drawing. I have a tendency to work both additively and subtractively when I draw. So you can see sometimes I'm creating a line by sort of shaving off parts of the pixels. I think this comes from spending so much time as like a sculptor in the other areas of my life. And sculpting is all about both additive and subtractive methods of creating form, so it just sort of like creeps into the way I draw naturally. I am unfortunately not the fastest. Something I want to work on, but like it's difficult to develop speed. Like I have not figured out how to do it yet. Like you can just sort of move your hand around faster and like kind of try to brute force it essentially, but it's really difficult to control consistency and quality and stuff like that. But it is helpful for just kind of being loose and like tapping into that right side of the brain kind of zone. I think I have to adjust the perspective on the head now because I think I sort of changed it in the process of the face, and I kind of like it how it is in the face better. So I'm just gonna do that real quick. Tapping into your inner Sonic Hedgehog, yes. I don't know, like sometimes it works, like when I've done figure drawing sessions and they do like the 1 minute warm-ups, gesture drawings, like I can get into that. But like outside of that sort of structured context, sometimes it's hard to let go of the self-consciousness, I guess, or the anxious feelings that come along with just trying to move that fast when you don't feel like you have that skill level. It's just easier when somebody's like physically present and being like, no, literally 60 seconds is all you get. We're moving on to the next one. And you're like, okay, I guess there's nothing I can do. But when you're sort of trying to create the context for yourself as you draw, it's a lot harder to step away from like a really haphazard, low quality drawing that you did because it was timed and it was really fast and not want to like fiddle with it even more. Okay. I'm thinking his face is a smidge too narrow and I need to drop the corner of his jawline down more. I don't have a high level of visualization prowess. Like, I don't have aphantasia or anything. I can make pictures in my brain, but they are not detailed. So I am not the type of artist who can, like, imagine every last thing about an image and then just go draw it. I kind of have to, like, put the bones down and then build it little by little and, like, interpret and make decisions as I'm drawing. I don't, like, it doesn't just come out from a fully formed idea and visualization in my mind, so maybe that's part of why I'm a little bit on the slow side, because there's a lot of figuring out I have to do on the page. It's like you just sort of get something out there and then adjust it until it looks right, is my process, and that is not necessarily a speedy way to go about things. They say you can develop your visualization ability, so perhaps I should invest some energy and time into that and then see if I can improve my skill of just picturing an image ahead of time. I definitely did not do any of that for this drawing, by the way. I just sort of started drawing a basic, like almost like having a basic planes of the face head and then just sort of trying to build a likeness on top of that, if you're talking of like sculpting. I just made it like a blank and then started trying to work around that. But I did not, I don't know if I even could picture, like, just do this exercise mentally first and then draw it. I don't know if I could. It's like, the act of drawing it is part of the process for me. Alright, we're getting a little closer over here. And because I work that way, because it is essentially a matter of, like, trial and error, almost, I definitely have, like, that too, that also contributes to the pace being kind of slow for me, I think. The sort of sculpted line look is also time consuming, but it has a particular flavor that I like. I enjoy the sort of developed look of the contours instead of the just sort of like fine. And it's weird because some days I'm like, I'm very grass is greener, and I'm like, I just want to be able to draw like other people do and have the, the fine lines, and it's only additive and blah blah blah. But that's just not what comes naturally to me, and I haven't really like developed my own kind of version of that technique that works for me. So the sculpted line is what I tend to do, and I do like it, so that's just usually what I end up falling into. Okay. I think I'm going to start working the hair in on this drawing. I would not say I've completely developed what I want the face to look like, but this is a pretty good start, and I want to move on and try again on another drawing. So I am going to start drawing hair, and I am actually going to make a new layer just in case I completely donk it up on the first try and want like a clean start. Remember, non-destructive workflow where it's comfortable to do so. I think one of the reasons why hair becomes such a big, humongous part of likeness in character designs like this is because it has such an impact on the silhouette and the shape of the face. And even if you are not even if you're not like a fan of this type of style, you have to admit that like there is a lot of conscious thought and like attention that goes into the shape, the silhouette, just the design of the hair, like from a visual design standpoint, not from like a aesthetic appeal standpoint, but just from like if you were just to simplify these down into flat shapes of color and see how those flat shapes of color can be like kind of peeled out and separated, and what does that look like from like just a 2D design perspective in abstract. There's just a lot there. I really feel like there's a very strong case to be made for like observing that. Like we have such strong responses as audiences to these characters. So obviously there's something there as far as like they have tapped into the human brain with their anime hair. I guess is what I'm trying to say. So it's worth paying attention to, even if it's not like your jam. And there's like an emotive, like metaphorical meaning to all these little shapes. You know, you have like your own set of preconceptions from which you pull an interpretation of a visual design and what kind of emotions it brings out in you. I like the somewhat serene expression they tend to put on Zhongli. He has like kind of like a sort of serious face, but not like, it's not tense, if that makes sense. It's like he's got resting serious face. And like it's almost contemplative. Like there's other characters like with Xiao. I know he's a really popular character. He's really not my jam, but I find it interesting how they gave him like if you were to just try and sort of describe it visually, you might be tempted to think it's, you know, also kind of like a relaxed, but it's not. To me, when I look at it, there's tension And it's just like these really slight details that make that happen, like the width of the mouth, the angle of the brows. His like his expression feels much more like fettered to me, I guess. Like, and that's part of his character, right? Like, he is burdened, and there's tension in him because he feels that burden. But I feel like Zhongli's like overall design is much more likely to describe just like a feeling of like observing and contemplating. That comes with being like a sort of calm type of character. Still working on interpreting this hair. Not really happy with it yet, but I will keep chipping away until something clicks. Maybe they gave him this like semi-shaggy hair up top to like kind of feel like the fur of the like dragon shape he's like first introduced. That would make some sense to me. It's sort of weird. It's like this really strange balance. I don't think I've hit it yet. Where like you can feel the sort of like rounded shape of his hair, but then he's got all these little scraggly bits. Ugh. Photoshop is nagging me for updates, and so you got another notification sound. I apologize. I thought if I turned off Chrome it would take care of it, but you never know when some other random thing is just gonna start being obnoxious with its notifications. Okay. Okay, I actually think part of my hair issues right now are where the hair is falling and whether it's framing his face right. Like, the reason why there's like tropes in character types, right, or character archetypes, is we just have these associations that's come along with certain like visual elements. And it's fun when you see a there's a character that sort of subverts your expectations by looking like one thing, and you sort of have an expectation based on that, and in the other character designs you've seen in the past, and you know, all the tropes and all that stuff. And then if you find out that that character is different from what you expected, it can be really delightful. And some of the strongest characters that I like really find memorable are really heavy in that category. But on the flip side, it's a risky move, because sometimes people will just kind of reject a character that is less what you see is what you get, if that makes sense. Like, they don't necessarily want to be subverted. Like, not all of your audience does. So, you're especially in a kind of a junk food medium for entertainment that's not there to, try to teach you something profound. It makes sense for them to make the decision to go with a safer kind of design that, you know, conforms more to your expectations when you look at it. Damn ponytail makes a big difference. There's also this sort of like eyeliner color thing that's happening over here, and without that, it's kind of hard to feel like it's him. Just going to like kind of smudge it in here with my drawing color and try not to make it feel like it's actually like just he never sleeps. Once again, my silly decision to do like a difficult perspective angle is biting me in the butt. He's got these little like two little hair clumps on top, and I've not done them justice, and they're like almost like teeny tiny little horns or bug antenna or something. I have been meaning to go find some royalty-free music and make my own playlist to do this. Just so it doesn't get like muted, because I like talking through my process and stuff, and talking with you guys when you're chatting to me in the little text chat. But Twitch does not like when there's, music you don't have the rights to, so they'll just mute the whole audio channel if you have something playing in the background, as I learned through experience having mucked it up. So I'm trying to use their little app to prevent that, but even though the music is nice, this playlist seems to be pretty short. Like, I end up having to restart it at least once during the stream, so it would be nice to go find something I can have a little bit more acute control over. It's on my to-do list. The backlog, I guess I should say. There's never enough time to do all the things. But one of these days, I will get to it. Much like in some weeks, I'll be on some way later stream and still saying that probably. But at least the music is nice and chill. If you're gonna repeat anything a lot, music-wise, it should be something nice and chill, I think. Okay. Trying to balance between this super feathered hair thing he's got going, and then the bit that like frames his face quite deliberately. Oh, anime hair, you're so confusing sometimes. If I don't make a decision to do some other expression, this sort of like resting contemplation face is exactly the expression I would draw in every drawing. It's just sort of like neutral gear in my mind, I guess. Okay. I do think we're getting there gradually. I don't want to draw the Archon outfit as like the first way I draw him because it covers like top of his head and stuff. So it doesn't seem like a good starting point for like working out likeness, but eventually I do want to draw the Archon outfit. As silly as it is that they just like inexplicably made him like completely bare-chested in it. It's like, what is this shirt? No sleeves, no chest. But it does have really, really, really long coattails, and like a bunch of them. Eventually I will draw that silly, silly thing, and if you don't already know what I'm talking about, you will see it. But for today, we're gonna draw him in his classy man suit. It's even got some like pointy shoulders, this thing. I always, like... Oops, I had totally been drawing this clothes stuff in the hair layer. Ah, it's fine, it's whatever. Take this line back out so that I can work on top. And I'm just gonna reduce this one. Eventually I'm gonna smoosh these layers back together, so I'm not really too worried about it. It's just like whatever's convenient to start with. The design language is strong in Genshin, and you can see it especially when you consider the characters' outfits, their sort of color coding. You have a very strong recognition. Tay says, I mean, I'm not complaining about shirtless Archon. Nugget says they're pretty dang good. Yes, I agree. They make me laugh because they are undeniably ridiculous, but definitely not to be confused with complaining. I am not complaining. Many of the things I appreciate most are utterly ridiculous, so. Anyway, where was I? Yeah, the recognition is very, very strong. Like, the characters feel like they all belong to the same universe, like you very easily see that, but at the same time, each one has a specific design and shape language that is unique to them and reads as them, you know? It's just really cool to see. It's such a well thought out game visually. And in many other ways, but I'm just focused on the visual aspect as I'm talking about it right now. And I just really appreciate that. Like, it would be really cool to see some of the, like, process drawings as they are developing their characters. I doubt that they're ever going to release all that stuff, because a lot of times it's pretty rough work, and, you know, you might accidentally invoke some like feelings. People might have some feelings if they like the concept version of the character better than what eventually became the canonical version. So, I get why they don't always share those things, but I still kind of wish they would, because I just really like seeing the process, you know? I made you want an official art book? Oh yes. Maybe someday. I mean, it's a pretty art-focused game in a lot of ways, so like you'd think, right? And if we were gonna see like concept art and like production art, that's where it would be, right? This man and his billions of diamond shapes all over him. In some ways, I get kind of like a. You guys read Lore Olympus? I get kind of a Hades God of Wealth vibe from him. Well, with the currency being named after him and whatnot. And he's wearing a fancy suit. Fancy man suit. I mean, everybody's clothes in this game look A, impractical as hell, and B, fancy as hell. But his is like a formal fancy, you know? So it like also communicates the idea of like wealth, or can't help but do so. Oh my gosh. I'm getting like way too far down into this like ridiculously elaborate clothing. I didn't mean to go so far into the clothing. Not that I don't need practice at clothing, I definitely do. And I want to do some, like, fashion studies. Like, I really like looking at fashion photography when they do, like, runway shows and stuff. And just, like, I think it would be fun to do art studies based on fashion photos and stuff. But, like many things, I have not gotten around to doing it yet. Okay. Let's see if we can get these big sharp-ass shoulders. Nugget says, maybe it doesn't apply to Zhongli, but I feel like their art team had the goal of making it a pain to make fan art cosplay. So many outfits are full of little details and also asymmetrical. Oh my god, yeah, the asymmetry just kills me sometimes. Like, I mean, in like visual design, asymmetry is a really powerful tool. So of course, you know, you'd want to like have it and like use it in your you know, toolkit as a designer. But yeah, as far as just like sometimes when I look at the outfits and I can't, my brain just works this way. I can't help but imagine like some of the sensations of wearing it, you know? It just sort of happens as soon as I see something. So when I see something like Child or Tartaglia, I don't know which way I'm supposed to call him. I haven't completed his little arc in the Liyue storyline yet. But when I see his little peekaboo thing on one side of his coat, I just feel like my tummy is getting cold as I see it, and it pisses me off. Tay says the art team woke up and chose violence, to be honest. Yeah. Speaking as a cosplayer there. Are you gonna do a cosplay from Genshin, Tay? Are you gonna let them do that crime to you? Oh my god, I am struggling with this perspective, you guys. I did this to myself. Tay says, I might, but I will only buy it. I physically recoil at the idea of making child's outfit. Yeah. I do not blame you. Child's coat just looks like he buttoned it wrong. He looks like, you know, me the first time I wore this pea coat I had, and I did not realize that it had like a version of the buttons. It's just for when you hang it up. There's just like one button and it doesn't hang right. So it's like all asymmetrical, janky, and there's like a big triangle of space where it's not lined up right. That's what it looks like to me. But like when you think of it just from like a visual design standpoint, it's super strong. But like, I don't know, just the way my brain works, I can't help but also imagine like how it would feel. So it's like kind of difficult to get past it. Okay, how the fuck do your little shoulder thingies work, son? He only knows how to fight, not how to properly dress himself. Oh, I mean, everybody's gotta have priorities, I suppose. Just, you know, he's supposed to be from like a super cold climate. The little triangle of tummy peeking out just kills me, man. It's like every time they do a blacksmith in Rune Factory that's wearing like nothing, I'm like, why have you done this to me? Like, remember Ganesha and her like perpetually bare most of her? I'm like, you just get burned so much. It was like the same reason why in real life I could never really get behind those bikini barista situations, like even the ones that were legit and not actually, you know, super sketch. But I always just was too worried about those people. Like, oh god, the foam in these like drinks is so hot, you're gonna melt your tummy flesh right off if you spill that, and I'd just be so stressed. Like, that's just me and my anxiety, I guess. Maybe normal people do not worry about this type of thing, but for me, it was just like always on my mind whenever I thought about those places, so I could never go to one. Here I am in the weeds with his really bizarre decorations on his suit thingy again. Just gonna do this and then something like this. Try to do that quickly, not get super sucked in. Okay, whatever. I'm just gonna scroll up till I can't see that part anymore and move on with my life. They really have a thing for ponytails in this game, I have to say. Like, seems like everybody has a long-ass ponytail. Like, everyone. Ponytail or pigtails? Those are your only choices. You don't get anything else. Go find my hair layer again. And scooch. This bit. Down. I like how when I do a Genshin character, it's just you guys. You're my Genshin Impact friends. the Genshin fandom is like, we don't know you, and then like most of my audience is like basically just Rune Factory stuff, and they're like, what is this? I mean, the clothing is equally impractical, but other than that, I don't recognize it. Ugh. I really do need to figure out some way of getting faster, because there's just so many things that I want to draw, and like every single thing takes so long. Like feeling my mortality as I try to draw these dorky characters. Gonna be a mummy, an old crusty mummy by the time I get through my to-do list. But it will just get longer, so let's be real here, I'm never getting through it. Just gonna kind of do this. Nope, you know what? I hate that whole thing. Just gonna erase it. You're the impractical clothing fans? That's what you're here for? Is that our demographic? We're just like, oh, a belt that doesn't actually hold anything up? Tell me more. Alright, I've fiddled around way too much with this outfit. I just need to start another drawing here. Honestly, I should probably always start with a profile, because a lot of the proportional stuff is like way, way, way easier to figure out in profile. But I just feel like self-conscious about drawing profiles sometimes, because profiles are where you hide when you have no idea how to draw in perspective. They're like the easy perspective, so it's like I always feel like I'm just running from art when I do a profile. Gotta stop doing that. Draw the ear like it actually looks from this side, girl. Part of drawing fast, I'm vaguely remembering, is like doing big straight lines to establish shape and proportion to start with. At least, you know, I say part of drawing fast, but it's one way, right? It's one way of drawing fast. It's just like the idea is to establish things quickly so you can fail faster, as they say. And get to the business of making the adjustments more quickly instead of trying to get it perfect with some careful little small line, knowing that it's not going to be perfect no matter what you do. So you're always going to have to like work back into it, so you might as well not invest this time and energy trying to draw this perfect line that's never going to be perfect. Because it has to be developed and you have to like find it, right? Oh yes, it's a time-consuming process. The tricky part is like sometimes I want to do like a slow, like get into the flow of it and like fuss over every little thing kind of drawing. Cause like in a way it feels good, but at the same time that's a pretty good way to accidentally lock yourself into left brain drawing, which is a dubious prospect. And I'm not usually happy with the result in the end, so I should probably try to make myself go faster and focus on honing that skill just so I can spend more time in the right brain mode. Right brain is much more like intuitive, it would seem. So if I can get access to that while drawing, I think there's less frustration involved, if that makes sense. You can get more into the sort of like expressiveness and less stuck on the like technicality stuff. Another thing about the characters in Genshin Impact that I've noticed is like a lot of them are very like flat from front to back, like they're almost like a ribbon. Like you could imagine them kind of twisting and forming like a that spiral of shape of like a flat ribbon being twisted. And even Zhongli is like that. But that seems to be just kind of like a marker of the style versus like an individual trait of the character. So I'm gonna throw it out the window. You know, the natural evolution of me figuring out how I like to draw Zhongli is eventually he's just gonna suddenly have facial hair, and people are gonna be like, wait, what? And I'll be like, don't worry about it. Just go with it. Something weird about this. It's not quite right. I am, of course, drawing with the really light version of the color, so probably pressing down too hard and hurting my wrist eventually. I am going to start color picking the darker color. Oh god, the way watercolor works in this is making it really awkward. What the heck? I think I lost my color somewhere along the way. I must have accidentally color picked white. Oh my god, I can't do this. I like these brushes, but they are not intuitive for me. The way that they like blend and drag color and stuff like that is like, you can get cool results, but I have not like sort of absorbed the way that they work in a muscle memory kind of way yet, so I just can't, I don't feel like I can predict them and get the result I want right away. Just kind of like fumbling toward it. I picture him having this sort of like shape that they'll sometimes have in like a person's face who has like a little bit of gauntness to their face, where you kind of get this whole entire like triangular plane that gets sort of separated out from the rest of their face in light and shadow. I feel like I could have a bit of that with him. You get that very planar face shape. Could be good. I don't find it easy to completely separate line and form in my mind. So, it's difficult for me to do a drawing that is supposed to be like 100% contour. You know how like a lot of artists will completely separate out their line art from any indication of like light and shadow, and it's just the line art? I don't do so well with that. I feel like I made his upper lip too short and his lower lip and the space under his lower lip too long. I always have this friggin' line under the eye. I'm like, if you don't have this shit, you're too young for me. It's awfully, like, it feels weird in a way, like playing games that are, or watching shows or whatever. Like, especially though playing games like in Rune Factory or Persona 5 or whatever, Persona series, like playing games that want you to like choose a character that you like, that you want to romance in the game and stuff like that. Or just like, you know, games Genshin doesn't have any kind of like romance stuff in the game, but nevertheless, it has a really strong like vibe that's similar, just because like the players get so attached to the characters. You play as those characters, they have all this lore. You know, you just get really invested in the character stuff. And it's awfully weird playing these types of games as a, you know, a person in your 30s. Because you're so clearly not the target market. And so you're like, well, I'm just going to, like if you're me and you're an artist, you're just like, well, I'm just going to manipulate your character's designs until I no longer feel weird about it as a person in their 30s playing your game. Okay, bye. Okay, wait, I forgot. This hair is crazy, and I need a new layer. A new layer for the crazy. Like, it's so funny because his suit and stuff make you feel like he's like super put together, but this hair kind of feels like he's a wild animal, honestly. Kind of feels like he was like, alright, I'll be a human for the next few centuries or whatever. And then somebody was like, oh, that's not how humans do hair. And he's all like, shut up, I know what I'm doing. But he does not. And his hair just kind of looks like he's still a scruffy wuffy dragon boy. So strange. I almost feel like I need to draw this like overall shape of like round shape of his hair and then start picking out the little feathered bits. Also, I'm uncomfortable about how close I am to the edge of this thing. I have to scoot you. Scoot, scoot, scoot. There we go. I know we have this bang situation, and it goes down past his nose on the other side. Then he's got this sort of like face framing part of his hair. Oh gosh. It's another one of those things where it's like, oops, I should have tried to find some kind of side view reference image, because here I am being like, wait, how does your wacky 2D design hair work when it's being viewed from the side like this? When I was younger, the eyes of the characters that I would draw were much bigger. And like the older I get, the more tiny the eyes, tiny amount of like real estate upon the face the eyes I draw take up. And it's funny because like I still have that sort of leftover instinct to like want to draw all this like detail in the iris and things like that, but I'm like, girl, you draw eyes so small in your drawings now, like you can barely get, like you can fit the eye direction and that's about it. But that's how human eyes are sort of designed, actually, is just like to be able to view the gaze direction at a distance. That's why we have like visible white sclera, so that that contrast can help us be able to tell what somebody's looking at, even at when you were standing far away from them. And I love that you can get expression, that you can get a lot of weight and emotion in a drawing a character, even when you don't draw humongous, glassy, detailed eyes, you know? I like to express with the body, with the other parts of the face, the everything else. I like the eyes to be part of the expression, but not the whole thing, just kind of stamped on a more default-ish base. Boy, I really do not know how this little tuft on the front of his hair looks from the side, to be honest. think of how it would recede in space and stuff. It always kind of cracks me up, like, you know, my art is pretty stylistically different from the source material of the kinds of games I gravitate toward. So, a lot of times it doesn't land with, like, a large number of people because it's just so different, you know? But at the same time, there's a lot of people who have, like, you know, left me really nice messages over the years to just be like, oh, I love your style, I love your interpretation of this character. And it makes me think there's gotta be, like, a pretty fair number of people out there like me who just really appreciate a little bit more information in the, like, facial features and stuff like that. And I think it's neat that there's, like, people who, like me, are kind of tickled by this style of, or this type of interpreting through different styles of something that's anime style to begin with. Oh my god, here I go again. I'm gonna try really hard not to get completely sucked into this very densely detailed thing. When I drew, the first time I drew any Genshin Impact fan art and posted it, this really sweet artist that I really like was like, oh, your style is perfect for these hyper detailed things. And I was like, oh god, what have I done? I'm gonna, like, destroy myself trying to reproduce all these details. Why have I done this? That was my thought. I have a love-hate relationship with detail. For sure. Also, apparently I have a very love-hate relationship with perspective. I would completely understand if somebody was just like, oof, you draw too slow for me to watch on Twitch. I'll wait and draw it, or I'll wait and view it on YouTube where I can speed it up. Like, yes, I know. I don't blame you. Ooh, yeah. Holy cow, look at that. I was actually happy with that line the first time. Crazy. Another thing that's kind of helpful about drawing on the Cintiq monitor instead of my iPad is it's pretty big, so it's easier to do the thing that they taught me in college, where you draw with your arm instead of with your wrist. And when you do that, you can have better control over like macro shapes sometimes. Sometimes is the key word. I don't know, I don't feel like I have very good control of macro shapes ever. It's just me. Yeah, I think I like this, you guys. I think I like it. And I think that the two don't look too radically different from one another. I think we have a pretty decent pair of drawings working through this character's appearance here. Gosh, these little whatever they are on top of his head. Little funky hair tufts. I swear, like, when I try to visualize the, like, real world analog of this, it's just like, oh yeah, this is just a real janked up, did it himself haircut, isn't it? Like, why else would you have these little things right on top? Nugget says, shut, you're doing good. Oh, thank you. Yeah, he definitely just cut some of this hair too short, and that's why it's just sticking straight up. Whatever though, it's cute. We don't care if it's cute, right? I have to admit, I weirdly like his ridiculous long ribbon ponytail, and I don't know why. I have no explanation. Because at the same time that I like it, I also think it's pretty much the most hilariously dumb thing. Let's see, do we want to say that this piece of hair is gonna, like, be visible from the front, or don't we? Maybe just like that. He's just got this really extra long chunk of hair on the left side. There we go with that asymmetry again, huh? I don't think I'm gonna have it. Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna have it visible from this side. I think it's just gonna be only visible when you can see his right side of his face. Okay, I got a few more minutes in the stream. I think I'll just slap some color under these sketches to get a little bit more like recognition at a distance. And I am gonna be a completely lazy butt and color pick, which I don't recommend you do all the time because you can definitely get some better like experience and practice if you do the work of like mixing or choosing your colors. But right at this exact moment, I don't have a ton of time left in my stream, and I just want to do it this way. I personally like to start with a skin tone that's a little bit darker than what I intend to eventually use. And that's because I find it way easier to work from a mid-tone and get lighter, or a dark tone and get lighter, than the other way around. I am also going to take my weirdly light sketch here and turn it to multiply so the color isn't super differentiated from the color underneath. Just find this color. Not really feeling that. I'm gonna fiddle just a little bit around here. Kind of scooch this color over a little bit on the wheel. Color is context, and if you don't pay enough attention to that, you just get befuddled constantly. Looks like I also need to turn some of these to multiply. Because of the way blending works with these brushes, I am going to try and just put all the color on one layer. Which I might regret later, but you know, whatever. It's just a few little doodles, pretty much. These are not like paintings that I'm going to invest many an hour into, so it's fine if it's not optimal. And hey, maybe we'll learn something about the software and how I want to do my process going forward. I do just like thoroughly appreciate the gradients in the Genshin visual design. They are big into like color transitions and stuff, and yeah, I don't know, I think they've got a really sweet understanding of not just like design principles, but like the sort of movement of art online past few years. They're doing like a remarkably good job of absorbing what has demonstrably appealed very well to people, and then kind of adding their own flair to it. Like Genshin Impact is recognizable, despite the fact that like there's so many games that like at a glance you might think, oh yeah, there's another anime game or whatever. But at the same time, the design language in Genshin, I feel like, is distinct enough that you could recognize it. Like, if somebody saw a character with these elements, they would be like, oh, that kind of looks like it's from Genshin Impact, whether it is or it isn't. Versus just saying, oh, that just looks like some random anime character. It would be interesting to try and visualize Genshin characters in the Studio Ghibli style sometime. Oh, why did I draw his stupid clothes? They have so many colors! That's another thing that his Archon outfit will be good for, is just like so many fewer colors and details. God. you know what? The brown in his coat is a little bit more desaturated than the hair, so let's make sure to represent that. I did think when I saw his design, I remember thinking that, like, it's not very often that you see a character in this kind of thing. Fewer everything. Yeah, true. Fewer everything in the Archon outfit. It's not very often that you see a character design that is focused on, like, brown and earth tones the way this outfit is designed. So that part of it is also kind of intriguing, you know? It's like, I don't remember the last time I saw an anime character who was meant to be a main character whose friggin' outfit was brown. Like, you know, if you're in Rune Factory and your outfit is brown, you are a side character. You probably don't even have a name that's not procedurally generated. It's just very, like, it's like the bland color or whatever. Although I guess Raguna had some brown in his outfit. Raguna's honestly the most vanilla looking Rune Factory protagonist that we've ever had or ever will have, probably. But yeah, I just find it really fascinating that, like, they really went with, like, all neutral colors pretty much, except for, like, the hits of orange and a little bit of, like, ochre in his in Zhongli's outfit. And that's just so interesting to me. It's different. It has, like, kind of an intriguing novelty to it in a way. Like, some of my preconceptions about, like, we talked about how preconceptions sort of tie into how you respond to a character's design. Some of my preconceptions about just a brown suit, you know, come into play in interpreting his character. It's sort of has an old-fashioned feel, and he's a character who's been around a really long time, and, like, not necessarily able to strongly relate to the peer group of the main character or something. That's kind of interesting to me, like, that's sort of, like, triggered by the color choice relative to real world, not relative to, like, within Genshin Impact's world. But it's a factor, so, like, I can't help but think that they probably knew that was going to play into people's interpretations of this character or their feelings about this character because of, like, just real world background influences and stuff. Since nobody's allowed to look old in this game, it's like stuff like that becomes the, like, analogous quality of, like, ancient being, is I guess what you would call him. Because, like, they clearly don't want you to interpret him as old, otherwise they would not have given him ultra smooth boy face, I guess. But, at the same time, they're like, here's a thousands of year old dragon man. So, they had to want you to feel like he was old on some level. You know, it's honestly not even, like, all the ding-dang details that I hate so much about drawing, like, an outfit like this. It's that I don't know them, you know? Like, if I had drawn this character as much as I have drawn, like, Frey or Bado, I might have, like, a better memory of where all these frickin' details go. But then again, who am I kidding? Because, like, with Frey, I don't even draw her, like, more detailed outfit. I just draw her in her pajamas all the dang time. So, yeah, I'm probably gonna, like, draw this suit, like, a couple more times, and then I'm gonna just totally jump ship and only draw him in Archon wear from then on. Oh, hey, that color worked right out the box. Look at that. It's interesting what they've done here with this little splash of a more cool color up by his face. It contrasts with this more saturated yellow in the lining of his coat. So your eye kind of bounces from low to high and high to low. It's interesting, and it's like there's a little bit of that cool color kind of echoed in his silvery shoulder pieces or whatever the hell. And there's a little bit on his back. But as far as the front view goes, this blue collar is like the only bluish thing you can see on him. So it's there to kind of like pull your eye up and like make sure your eye snaps up toward his face despite all the bajillions of details going on in his outfit. Remember when I was like, I just have a few more minutes in the stream and then I'm gonna just slap on some color real quick, and then I proceeded to try and color this ridiculous outfit? What was I thinking? Maybe I'll just have to continue this next time. Maybe draw additional views of him or something. When I was younger, I found it easier to project feeling and emotion onto the anime style faces of characters. But as I got older, I was just like, there's not enough here, there's not enough information, there's not enough expression. So I started really like developing the style gradually, just out of a desire to see that slightly different approach. It's style is derived from taste, and your taste evolves over time. So, it's like a combination. Taste and training. You know, your background as an artist will always influence your style. I don't know what this color is. There's so many colors, so many details, so much everything. What is your deal, sir? Do you like how I'm like alternately like praising the Genshin Impact style and like crying about it because it's making me do so much goddamn work? Black diamond thingies. Grab some of this ochre color. Oh yeah, that's kind of dicey with the blending. Oh well. I always kind of want to have like the nice loosey-goosey style like I see some other artists do online, and then like I inevitably get sucked into like way too many details and stuff. It's only when I'm like feeling like the pure desperation of like, oh, I'm tired, that I like manage to do these sort of like really loose, fast things that are even remotely similar to those ones online that I admire. Okay, we need silvery color for these. I just love the sort of blending of like this suit, like the sort of modernity of it with the ornate like scroll work and shiz all over it. It's just like such an interesting juxtaposition, I guess. Like his design is one that sort of got more interesting the more I looked at it. Alright, that's enough fiddling around with this suit stuff. Just gonna start doing some color variation in his face and his hair. We gotta get that orange color in there. These little highlights, you know. I'm sure my sort of interpretation of his face is gonna like evolve over time. Like I'm pretty much positive of that as I look at this, but right now I'm happy with the drawing. I think it's an interesting take on Zhongli and his whole like attitude. Oh wait, that middle piece does not have orange on it. Whoopsie! Undo, undo. Nugget says, I like how it's looking. Thank you. I'm liking it also. Man, the line between having appropriate like color zones of the face and like accidentally drawing blushies is such a fine line. Okay, I'm gonna make a layer on top of everything to get some of his freaky golden eye color in here. I'm gonna have to zoom in more than I want to because eyes are small. Nugget says, I'll paint blushies all over my Venti fan art, no shame. You go, man. Paint all those blushies. That's another thing that's kind of different about my art now versus when I was younger is like, I used to do a lot of like the eye highlights and stuff like that, and nowadays it's much more like if there's gonna be a highlight, it's pretty subdued and like there's only like one. It's not like the bazillions of little eye highlights that is sometimes kind of like a marker of that anime style. It's much more like, I really want you to be able to read the eye direction, and I don't want any of that to get disrupted by all these extra kind of decorative elements. But I really love when I see other people do those kinds of eyes. Like, I tend to really like it in their art. I just don't like it in my art. It's like a kind of a weird constant thing with a variety of characteristics and traits is I can like really, really like something when somebody else does it, but I don't like it when it's in my drawing. You know, I feel like we're losing the whites of his eyes too much, and I need to bring some of that back. Okay. Now we need to do a little bit of something up in this here higher. Yeah, that'll do. Just adding a tiny bit more form to the hair. Because I gotta wrap it up here for tonight. Yeah, I wonder if I can just add a layer and then make it a clipping layer. Is this it? Clip to layer below. Yes, okay, cool. And then I want to do multiply, and then I want to do this color. Then I want to do airbrush. I just like, I see flat colors and I get uncomfortable. Like, I just sort of need a gradient or I get real fussy. So, just gonna... I'm gonna put a little bit of a dark color behind him to fill in all these little cracks where I did not perfectly paint the flats. La 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 la. Don't mind me. Yes. That'll do. And that way that gradient has somewhere to land without having sort of weirdness pop up because of it. Okay, that one little gradient does so much for me. I'm just like, oh yes, much better. That's how I feel. Okay, I'm gonna call it for today. Thank you so much for joining me for this art stream. I really appreciate the very, like, chill vibes y'all bring to it. It's nice and, like, relaxing. And that's the vibe I want for this. Just cause, like, this is extracurricular, if you will. Like, I have a full-time job, I have a little kiddo at home. I don't have a lot of different times in my schedule where I can kind of just chill and vibe or whatever. But I really appreciate the atmosphere of these streams, and a lot of that is thanks to you guys and like kind of like the very relaxed attitude that you bring to it and the support that you give me in like your comments and your participation. It's really nice, so thank you for being here. And I will see you at the next one. Have a fantastic night. Yes, thank you. You're welcome. Thank you. I'm glad you guys like him. I will definitely keep drawing him in the future and try to further develop my interpretation of him. Alright. Have a great night, you guys.